The first, I think we've already mentioned, is globalization. In fact, it's been number one in 2005, and it's been on each of the future studies since 1996. So globalization is kind of here to stay and on the foremost of everybody's mind. One of the things that I've already mentioned is that the notion of what globalization is a force is evolving. And in earlier studies, it was about the huge market opportunities of a growing consumer class. In later studies, it was a huge threat to developed economies because of the efficiencies and effectiveness of developing nations, lower cost of labor, newer plant and equipment, making it difficult for advanced countries to compete. But by now, in 2005, what's really emerged is the notion that we don't have to talk about national boundaries anymore. We really don't have to talk about labor price disparities. Those will be neutralizing themselves over time. Mexico has come largely up to speed in terms of compensation and pay for worker. And even now, some countries are attracting jobs away from China because labor is less expensive, for instance, in Vietnam. So the notion of chasing labor costs or preserving jobs against labor changes is playing itself out, and most companies are thinking about the globe in its entirety as the scope of their organization's work. Hewlett-Packard says that they actually have business in 180 countries throughout the world. They have physical facilities in 180. Now, go back 20 years, I don't think you would have ever found that. So that's one of the evidences of the wide scale and rapid change of globalization. One of the things about globalization I think we need to grapple with is that it's changing the notions of space and time for work, right? So advanced companies are already thinking about getting work done around the clock. And companies are virtually passing work in progress from one time zone to another and chasing the sun around the world as people on one side of the world are waking up to pick up the work that others have left at the end of the evening, so to speak. And the fact that through electronics and evolving technologies, oftentimes, other than in manufacturing, where work gets done is becoming less relevant than it was before. Work can be done, I'm sure, as we all experience, in the comfort of our homes, on our lap, on airplanes as we travel, in any city we find ourselves in. We're no longer bound to where we are as a notion of where work gets done, right? Another thing about globalization is the notion that it's creating huge new consumer market spaces, right? And people all over the world are growing in their appetite for higher standards of living. So that's creating opportunity for organizations that think about a global marketplace. Right? A third dimension, or another dimension around that notion of globalization, again enabled by technology, is that consumers are becoming global shoppers. We're no longer limited to buying what can be sent to us by a local supplier, right? So we get on the internet and we can look all over the world for whatever it is we want. And so organizations need to think through that reality in terms of what they take to market, how they take to market, and the values consumers will use when they make buying decisions, which we know from conversations we hear are increasingly being driven by values other than the product or service itself. It has to do with the reputation of the company as being socially responsible or a good citizen of the universe, and how organizations respond to crises that their products may create. So it's a more complex buyer decision today. It's not so much what I can find on the shelves where I shop or in the organizations that I can reach by my car.